Greetings and salutations, my fellow patrons. Welcome once again to the most highly underrated podcast of the North Country, We Got Nothing from Life on Saturn Productions. I am your host who just got off of a long, grueling 7.5 hour shift, your host who likes to boast, Catalyst Jost. And at this time, before we introduce my guest at this time, I wanted to personally apologize to those who like to listen to our podcast more regularly, as the past couple weeks have been trying on my end. Most recently, I've experienced some major family tragedy, and it has been rather difficult to maintain a more consistent schedule. So, fair warning, in the coming weeks, We Got Nothing will be more sporadic in terms of its schedule, not more than it already has been. So I beg your I beg your forgiveness, and thank you so much for understanding. That being said, at this time, I would love to introduce our very special guest. He is my flatmate. He is also one of the biggest, most recognizable, and most kindest faces here in Plattsburgh, New York. If you go to the bars, chances are you've seen him, if not heard of him. Please help me welcome Zach Moore.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How are you doing, my friend?
Good.
So what did you do today?
Oh, just the usual everyday shenanigans. Monopole and good times.
Shenanigans. Who was working today?
Today it was Haley DeTulio with the monopole, and then Ashley Norton at 5 at good times.
For those of you who like a little bit of fun-loving energy along with the hippie aesthetic, Monopole boasts some of the best bartenders, including that of Miss Haley DeTulio, who will always bring a lovely smile to your face with her warm energy. Shout out to you, Haley. And also over at Good Times, if you are looking for a rocking rock star good time, look no further than Miss Ashley Norton, who always brings the up five. She is the rock star of Good Times. Chances are you cannot go one shift with her without hearing some kind of classical rock, as it should be over at Good Times. Yeah. Beautiful. And before we go forward, I would like to give a shout out from this episode's sponsor, Therapy. It is not an app, it is not a business, it's literally therapy.
Yep.
Folks, if the trying times of winter are getting to you and deteriorating your mental health, if life has been getting hard recently and you feel like you can't talk to any of your friends or family, don't be afraid to reach out for help. Absolutely. There is no weakness in it.
No.
There is no shame. It's no different than going to the gym and working on a muscle. Your mental health is just as important as anything else going on with you. For the best places you can reach mental health at the current moment, there is BHSN, Behavioral Health Services North. I strongly encourage that those of you during this winter season who are affected by seasonal health disorder to reach out to your friends, and if you at all need help getting started, don't look any further than Plattsburgh Social Services, located down on Broad Street. They will absolutely walk you through the process needed to fill out any health applications in regards to therapy. They are connected well with BHSN. Please, folks, during these troubling times, especially as we are coming out of the pandemic, do take care of yourselves, and if you see someone else who is struggling, please do not hesitate to be that helping hand.
Yeah.
I know I need frickin' therapy. Jesus Christ.
Everyone does. It's on some level or another.
The problem is, and this is from old style thinking and old values, like if you have something wrong with your mental health, usually you either keep it quiet and deal with it yourself, or, well, there really was no other option.
No.
You know? And now that we know more about how people are affected within the membrane nowadays from especially from external factors like
Yeah.
the weather, environment, the world going into a lockdown.
Yeah.
Now, Zach, you yourself have had your own struggles with mental health.
Schizophrenia, correct.
I guess my question is
Do you want to start off? Maybe we should start off when it started for me.
exactly because what is it? I have heard from dear friends of yours that you were not always affected by schizophrenia.
No, it did not kick in until 9 months into being 23 on Christmas night of 2014. I can make a joke about it now and jokingly say worst Christmas ever.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah.
So, this is what I guess I'm a little bit ignorant about. So, it can affect, it can be dormant and affect someone late in their life.
So the way it usually works, I've heard from Katie Murphy, who works at BHSM, that it usually develops between age 21 and age 30, but even from there, more often than not, in your early 20s. So we can jokingly say also, I was right on schedule as far as kicking in at age 23.
Yeah, the 20s are rougher for some than others, as you probably know,
Oh,
as you
yeah.
definitely know.
Mhm.
I would imagine that, was there any sort of traumatic event that caused the schizophrenia to develop at a more fast rate?
Maybe an argument I had with my neighbor, a woman who scared the shit out of me because her man was in prison for murder.
Jesus. Well,
So that was probably what kicked it on. And I'm not gonna lie, when it first set on, I thought it was her and her friends reading my mind from the upstairs apartment back when I lived on College Ave.
now, especially when it first started, was it scary? Did you even know what was really going on?
No, I really thought that people were reading my mind. I didn't even think of schizophrenia as a possibility until a few weeks later when I had my therapy appointment and was diagnosed with it officially.
Did they run any tests on you brain chemistry wise, like
No, they didn't hook
MRIs?
me up to anything, if that's what you mean. No. They just said that's what that is.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking they're right, judging by the way things have gone the past few years.
You've said plenty of times you do have audio hallucinations.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
If you're comfortable, can you describe what that's like in any way, shape, or form?
Well, my form of it is incredibly rare also in the sense that I'm hearing voices of people that I know. I hear that's even more rare.
I see. I see.
And it's literally only mean things. Like, everything I hear ends with calling me faggot. Everything. That's the final word of every sentence or question.
These voices, can they spring up anywhere at any time?
Correct.
Are there any external factors that can exacerbate it?
Oh, like maybe when people are either due or about to get in fist fights around me, like what almost happened tonight.
May I inquire?
Ashley's cousin and one of his friends. It got pretty heated. But it died down quickly, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It heated up and then died down quickly. She's pretty good at de-escalating those things.
Yes, Ashley is a badass. And so, from what I'm hearing, it seems like highly stressful situations, especially of the external, are what can personify and exacerbate the voices further.
Correct.
Have you done any personal research on the affliction yourself?
No, my friends have all done the research for me and then given me the info back to me a few days after they do so.
Well,
Like Chris Garamy, for example. He's the one that informed me that hearing voices of people you know is incredibly rare for what I suffer from. It's not common. It's usually random voices for people.
if my very little knowledge is correct, only like 10% of people actually have it in the world?
That have schizophrenia?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm terrible at math, so I don't know these things. All I know is it's millions of people. I don't know what the percentage of 6 billion is
Oh my
as
God.
far as millions go.
Well, I mean, you look at the population of Plattsburgh and
Yeah,
of Clinton County in general. I don't even think it puts a .01 dent
no,
into the number itself,
true.
especially within that of New York. Tell me, especially having this affliction, does it make people treat you differently, positively or negatively?
Uh, Over the years, honestly, it's been more positive than negative because I'm very open about it.
Mhm.
My friends are very understanding and accommodating to me.
Well, yeah, like,
Like
and
especially Katie Murphy, for example.
oh yes, shout out to Katie Murphy. You are also a badass, and thank you for being such a kind and understanding soul. I have to give praise because, like, even a lot of people, like, genuinely, especially within this part of the states, this part of New York,
Mm.
definitely suffer from a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues.
Yeah.
And even if they are diagnosed, there's a pride thing that comes with it, with admitting to not just your loved ones, not just yourself, but the population in general that,
Yeah.
yeah, like things are not all hunky dory. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? I mean, oftentimes I hear people ask, like, how are you doing and whatnot. And you tend to realize more as you get older that a lot of the reason people ask those questions is really to make sure,
Themselves look good.
not just that, but to make sure that they're comfortable. Because
Mm. Mm-hmm.
if their surroundings are uncomfortable, then they will become uncomfortable, and
True.
people don't like that.
No.
But what they don't realize is it's not about them.
No.
And the unfortunate thing is, like, especially with subjects like these, a lot of people are just not vulnerable. Vulnerability has been a lost commodity within the past. Jesus, probably since the beginning of time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like the first caveman didn't want to admit that he had a splitting headache after the other caveman knocked him upside the head with a club, and it's like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, what are some of the ways you use to, I guess,
Cope with it.
cope, combat, integrate that part of your reality into your everyday life?
Well, medications, of course, help.
Mm-hmm.
The three I'm on are 4.5 milligrams of Vraylar in the morning, 20 milligrams of olanzapine at bedtime, and a 234 milligram injection of Invega every 4 weeks.
Now, do you know at all how these medications affect the brain or you yourself, biochemical wise?
I do not. I don't know the science behind them, no.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is they help me, and I feel like that's all I need to know.
How does it feel physically after taking these medications, or how does it feel even
Well, the
mentally?
nighttime one, as well as helping with schizophrenia, is also a sleep aid. So when I wake up in the middle of the night after taking that, I feel a little groggy, of course.
Naturally.
And then another thing I've noticed is my morning one, the 4.5 milligram Vraylar, will work better if I have caffeine as soon after taking it as possible. So in the morning after I take that, I chug two 16-ounce Stewart's iced coffee refreshers.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that helps also.
Does caffeine help or deter from the treatment?
It helps. Usually, most people, caffeine makes things worse and makes them more anxious, but it does the opposite for me. It helps me.
Interesting. Because I do know that caffeine affects everyone differently, especially if they have a mental disorder.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly, look at those with ADD or ADHD.
Yep.
Caffeine makes them want to sleep, as
Yep.
opposed to keeping them up, keeping them alert.
Yeah.
And you also constantly have a schedule. I do notice that.
Oh, yeah. My first meal of the day is at 1:50 p.m. My second meal of the day is at 4:50 p.m. And usually, more often than not, the first two meals of the day, except for on Tuesdays when Hobie's is closed, are slices of pizza from Hobie's. It's meal number 3 that differs anywhere between 6 and 8, and I never know what it is till the last minute that day.
And you constantly also have a schedule for cigarettes, that's correct?
Every 20 minutes. The
Nice.
top of the hour, the 20th of the hour, and the 40th of the hour.
Is that more of a control thing, or does it help?
It also helps.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing I've heard about this. What I suffer from is many of us are heavy smokers.
With your affliction, I am not shocked, and I still praise you.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you get the chance to get any physical exercise? Does that help at all?
Yeah, I go on hikes in the mornings on Mondays with my older sister and brother-in-law. Sometimes we do the Point of Rush trails. Sometimes we do the trail across from the airport. Sometimes we do the Fieldhouse trails.
Point of Rush is one of my favorite hiking spots.
Beautiful.
Oh my god! Every time,
especially in the spring and summertime.
Absolutely. Every time I go through one of the trails, we always, me and my friend Ed, we always pass by this one gravestone that's right. The whole place is so vast, and there's just one gravestone
so many.
there.
Like, we still haven't tried all of them yet.
Oh yes. Frickin', and once you see the view of Vermont and the lake from one of the cliffs, it's
like
absolutely
I said,
breathtaking.
Especially in the spring and summertime when it's sunny outside. Come on.
And I find, especially in nature, that instantly stress just melts away once you enter the woods. Like it's like a veil you pass through, and instantly the stress, the constant pressure of our day-to-day lives just instantly alleviates and melts and dissolves.
Yeah. Another thing that helps me, if I can segue here, is repeating song lyrics over and over again. And in my travels, I've literally only ever come across 4 people that couldn't stand it and were annoyed by it. And there are people that didn't know me, so I don't really give a shit.
There you go.
There are no one in my life.
See, the problem is that, and this goes back to man's oldest fear, the humankind's oldest fear, the fear of the unknown. Once, and especially because humans are so used to judging the environment based off of their main senses, usually that of hearing and sight, that once they see someone who is deeply affected by something that they cannot see, or more importantly, they can't comprehend, that it instantly activates the flight or fight mode.
Yeah.
And
needless to say, one of the gentlemen, one of the few people who did get annoyed with it that I don't give a shit about, is a former store or tavern regular.
Yeah, well, store taverns closed, so who gives a fuck?
Yeah, also true.
And speaking more on the subject of people who just, like, don't know how to cope or comprehend, you told me once that some dude actually, like, had taken your hat or something, was actually picking on you and whatnot. And I don't think anything riles my feathers more than 2 things. One, outright stupidity or ignorance, which those can be intermingled quite well.
Oh, that's right. The incident at the monopole 5 years ago during that summer where a guy pushed my hat down over my eyes and said, "You sleep with your sister, don't you?" Of course, I didn't think of anything clever to retort that except for hours later when I should have said, "No, I sleep with yours."
Got him.
That would have been perfect.
Dude, if I had a dime for every time somebody tried to step to me and I thought of a great response later, I would...
You'd be Donald Trump rich.
Dude, I would have a penthouse in New York fucking City, probably almost as high as the Empire State Building.
Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I'm not there or downtown so much late nights anymore, is because that's when the assholes come out.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Once you add, and I don't mean
once people get progressively more drunk throughout the evening, it gets worse.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in certain seasons of the year, there are more people than others. And once you add more people and they're all heavily under the influence of either alcohol or some other recreational substance, shit's gonna go down. Shit's gonna get crosswired.
Yep. And to segue here, that gentleman that did that to me is probably, I'm guessing, a friend of the woman that I had the argument with that probably triggered my schizophrenia. I'm guessing they're friends. Or maybe that's just me being paranoid and having another delusion. I don't know which. But those are the only people I could kind of understand mistreating me, is people that are friends of hers. My sister thinks it sounds far-fetched, but I don't think so.
The truth of the matter is, again, people don't know how to react to that which they cannot comprehend. And unfortunately, it does create a reaction where people just like automatically assume danger. Like the danger part of their mind just goes off. And it's unfortunate because what is it? Humans are not animals. I mean, they are, but they aren't at the same time because what defines us beyond that beastly instincts is our humanity. Humanity being defined, our emotional intelligence and the ability to read language, both body wise
Yeah, like,
and
there's no
verbally.
schizophrenic tigers. Like, come on.
I mean, there could be. Nobody's ever said anything about it,
Good
and
point.
I honestly don't know how I would feel about meeting one. Jeez.
Jesus, yeah.
I know, right? Other than your normal routines, are there any recreational hobbies you use? Not just to say quell the symptoms of schizophrenia, but also that make you genuinely happy as a human soul.
Honestly, it's gonna sound lame to a lot of people, but just listening to the radio. My favorite radio station, 106.7, The Wizard.
The Wizard. Shout out to the Wizard, bro, because you are still one of the main radio stations keeping classic rock alive. I praise you.
Speaking of that, I can't believe Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and all that shit is considered classic rock now.
Well, I mean,
it makes me feel so old, and I'm only 30.
Well, I mean, God,
apparently the statistic I hear is any music 25 years or older is classic.
Well, yeah,
figure.
Stuff like Nirvana.
Them too. 90s grunge.
Yeah, the 90s grunge scene is more than 25 years old now, and that's astounding.
Time flies.
Time certainly does fly.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Wu-Tang Clan is at least like 27, 28 years old by now.
Yeah,
like
that's classic hip hop. Yeah. We're getting old, DJ.
What do you mean we? I'm not 30 yet.
Good point.
Not to call you out.
You're fine.
So before we started this up, you mentioned a couple video games. Tell me, do you still play them, or does that affect your symptoms?
I don't know, because I haven't played a video game in over 3 years now. The reason I quit playing them was because of my rage when I would lose. I was worse than the YouTube videos you see.
Dude.
I'm not gonna lie. It was bad. A lot of broken controllers over the years.
Dude, gamer rage is worse than getting rejected by someone. I shit you not. Freaking, if I had a dime for every time I threw something because a game wasn't going my way, again, penthouse in New York.
Oh yeah.
So you're also a bit of a film connoisseur based off of the top 5 you gave me. Now tell me something. Have you ever seen any films that accurately depict paranoid schizophrenia?
Honestly, no. There's not a lot of. I don't think there are a lot of films that go in that specific mental illness. There's one for Over the Cuckoo's Nest that touches on the base of some mental illnesses, but doesn't really go into deep detail on any of them.
The one that really comes to mind, I forget the name of it, but it was a biopic about this one violinist played by Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
What is it? Robert Downey Jr. is kind of his
mentor.
I don't know, his mentor, and what is it? The dude did not experience, kind of like you, did not experience the delusions till he was in his mid-20s. And
early 20s.
Early 20s, yes. And it was also audio hallucinations.
Yep.
But at the same time, this dude can still rock the violin like he's freaking name someone, right?
Yeah.
Another one, and there has been some debate on the validity of it, A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe.
I've never seen either of them, so I'm not sure.
A Beautiful Mind is about John Nash. He was a mathematician who discovered his schizophrenia in college. More visual hallucinations.
Yeah. See, that would scare me even more. Visual stuff. Holy fuck.
Oh my god, yes. It's like literally a bad acid trip that you can't turn
Knock
off.
on wood, I'm glad it's more majorly auditory. I've only in my 7 years of dealing with this, I've only ever had one visual hallucination, and it was one rough night summer of last year and thank God it wasn't a scary hallucination. It was just, or hallucination, excuse me. It was just a picture of the map of the world on my wall in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing scary there, but enough to go, what the fuck?
There was a young woman I had went to college with who was a visual schizophrenic. She said multiple times
Were
about...
hers scary or random things?
Well...
Or both?
Both, actually.
Gotcha.
There was the two most recurring ones that she highlighted were there was a blonde girl that she would sometimes talk to, and then the scary one was almost like a Dementor from that of Harry Potter, like a black hooded figure floating around.
I've heard of some people seeing the Pennywise clown. That would fucking drive me insane.
That would absolutely drive... Oh my god, that would freak the fuck out of me, and I'm not afraid of clowns.
No.
Shit.
Yeah, when this first set on, I was drinking very heavily, and I thought it was helping me at first, but I learned a few years later that it was hindering me, so that's why I quit alcohol.
And once you get into the injections, the medications, and you add alcohol...
You can't do it anymore at all.
Absolutely not.
You can't mix those things.
And let me take this time right now to just praise you, because even if you didn't have the affliction that you have, you still take really good care of your health, which actually speaks more than the rest.
Other than these, of course.
Other than cigarettes, yes. But everyone has a vice. Everyone does have a vice.
My only two left are cigarettes and caffeine. I quit everything else.
And I mean, caffeine can go either or.
Yeah.
What is it? I mean, and we're not going to name anyone specific here, but I also know a couple of schizophrenics that don't take care of their health in any way, shape, or form.
And I know who you're talking about, and their whole story is sad.
I know. So again, like, kudos to you and praise to you for really setting a fine example for a lot of us.
Thank you. Yep, so Thursday is going to make 45 months off alcohol, and then the 15th of this month is going to make 6 years off weed.
Bro, you are doing so much better than the rest of us. Better than me. What was it? I almost made it to a full year no alcohol. It stopped at 9 months. So, again, kudos.
You never get too crazy, though. So I'm not too worried about I'm not too worried about you.
You didn't know me back in my party days. That's just what I'll say.
Gotcha.
But on the subject of things that give pleasure, but more in a healthy aspect, let's revert back to your top 5 movie picks. Now, what were they again?
Number 1, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Number 2, Apocalypse Now. Number 3, Casino from 1995, starring Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Sharon Stone.
Ooh.
Number 4, Platoon. And number 5, Goodfellas.
Thank you, Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Have you always been a fan of the mob films?
I mean, honestly, not so much The Godfather, but the rest of them.
Ooh, what do you don't like about The Godfather?
Because it's not based on a true story. It's fictional.
I'll give you that.
That's the issue I have.
It astounds me that a lot of people give it, proclaim it as the definitive mob film.
Even though it's not based on history.
Exactly.
It's interesting. You're right.
I mean, what is it? Goodfellas, like, wasn't just a simple crime drama with mob elements. No, no, no. It
No,
almost
Henry
made...
Hill was a real guy. And
No,
he died at I want to say age 68 in 2008.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
What I also liked that Scorsese did was make Goodfellas much more comedic than it had any right to be. All thanks to Joe Pesci, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
the guy made you terrified on screen as much as he made you laugh. Now,
Like get this scene when Spider forgets his beverage. He goes, "What am I, a mirage?"
yes, yes. Or the scene where, he asks Henry, "How am I funny?" that
Oh, that's classic too. Yeah.
the way that he just turns on a dime, it's like you
I
don't
know.
know if he's gonna hurt you or if he's gonna be your best pal. Like,
No. Yeah. Right.
Casino, in my opinion, was a little bit lesser in the aspect
Because
that
they changed the names of the people.
okay,
So Sam Rothstein's character in real life was based off the casino boss Frank Lefty Rosenthal.
mm-hmm.
And then Nicky Santoro, the gangster in real life, his name was Tony Spilatro.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed the names.
Well, also, Casino took a much more darker and violent approach than Goodfellas
That's
did.
true too. Yeah,
I
the
mean,
part where they put the guy's head in the vice and then squeeze till his eye pops
his
out.
eyeball freaking pops out, and then they just end it with a throat slit. Like,
Yeah,
oh
brutal.
my god.
Yeah,
The scene, I think the scene, though, that made me cringe the most was when they took Joe Pesci and his brother out into the
the
desert
cornfields
and whacked them with fucking
metal
baseball bats.
Yeah,
The detail I like the most about that scene is that even the mob guys who were perpetrating it were actually cringing at how bad it's like, should we be doing this? Like,
yeah, no.
we shouldn't, but
Yeah.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think that's how I was introduced to Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
The way that mental health was portrayed in that film was a landmark.
That's how it was in the 70s. People like me were viewed as a burden and to be locked away from society or even be lobotomized.
And it's a shame that some of these beliefs are still prevalent to today. Like, the problem is when somebody gets into their mind that the world has to be a certain way, and especially based off of their own behavioral patterns and environment, it's really hard to dislodge from those thoughts.
Yeah, I used to have a therapist that thinks shock therapy is a valid form of treatment. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, former therapist. I'm done with her.
I don't blame you.
It's like, if it really was treatment and to help you, how come they only did it to you when you did something that was wrong in their eyes? How come that was the case if it was treatment?
That was a thing in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because they didn't really they didn't
Until
use shock.
Flipped out.
Yeah, they didn't use shock therapy in there until somebody was being an ass, or like
when McMurphy broke the window
or unbehaving. Yes, and
yeah.
And that speaks more to where people's minds were with mental health back then, in the fact that
1975.
In the fact that if you weren't behaving a certain way, then you might as well be a vegetable.
Yep.
And that's just passing on the problem. That's not fixing the problem in any way, shape, or form. The best way to help somebody cope or even understand them, you got to talk to them.
Yeah.
You got to empathize with them.
I often wonder, like, what year specifically was it when they swear the hospitals and institutions started treating people like me better? I wonder what year it was.
Well, I mean,
if I were to venture a guess, somewhere around 1990. Maybe sooner, I'm not sure.
More than likely, but even so, even within local parts of the Northern Adirondack area, there are still certain medical facilities that don't do as good a job as they could with mental health. I mean,
True.
So what was it? Back in September, I personally had gotten down to a low place, and I tried to check myself into a hospital.
Yeah.
What I had noticed was I didn't see anybody till literally the next afternoon, and
No.
I had stayed overnight, and the person I talked to was not an actual like medical doctor, more of
No.
a
Counselor.
exactly more of a counselor, and
No real title.
and they were
Or
asking me
no real
questions.
degree.
Oh, they very well could have had a degree,
Well, yeah, true.
but what was also odd is the fact that they had taken 7 vials of blood from me. To this day, I still don't know what for.
No.
What is it? I had tried to get a follow up doctor's appointment on there, and they had bumped it. They had bumped my set appointment literally like 3 or 4 months back because there was more of an overload of cases, and
Yeah.
I was just thinking the whole time, it's like, so one of your patients just checked themselves into a hospital to try to feel better about their mental health, or like because they were in a dark place,
Yeah.
and your
No one does this
response
for fun. Like, come on, people. Take this seriously.
exactly. There was also one baffling case I saw while I was in there. So when I was released, there was this one guy that I had seen. He was wearing a Starry Night hoodie, and he had a big ass gash on his forehead. Tall dude too. So a few nights later, me and my friends we were walking around the downtown area to go home, and who was there but this same dude who was just in there only a couple days
What a
earlier.
visible injury from.
Still had the visible injury, and
Maybe even self mutilation, but they let him out anyway.
the dude had a very delusional grin on his face. He fist bumped us, and let me tell you something. He had some power behind that arm. Now,
Oh, yeah.
God forbid if he were to break down and had a
Want to hurt someone.
had a very angry outburst,
Could have done some damage.
he could have done some real damage.
Yep.
Another, and here's the funny thing later, like about a handful of weeks later, we were going to see my grandfather, and as we were passing the ER, I see this same dude come through the door, and there was security with him,
Okay.
and only a handful of hours later, I saw him walking the streets again.
Okay.
That baffles me, the fact
No
that
consistency.
no
The way they
consistency.
handle it.
Exactly. It almost feels like it's like an island of misfit toys. Like if one toy is broken, then they just pass it on.
Yep.
And I hate to use that example, but it's absolutely true.
Yep.
Mental health in this area is definitely has been an improved subject, at least improved on the focus. But there are still many drops in cases that just fall through the cracks, and that not only baffles me,
But
that
it's
makes
concerning.
that makes me genuinely angry. I mean,
Yep.
how can you clearly see that someone is absolutely suffering? Someone that might even be a danger not just to themselves but the general populace,
Yeah.
and then be like, "Eh,
Well, we're
well,
gonna let you go.
yep, see you next week." Literally, hell, maybe see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that about?
I don't know.
But it is the current world we live in.
Yep. Maybe things will improve as the years pass. Hopefully.
Well, with people like you setting the example, I have no doubt that things can turn a curve. That
Well, thank you.
now, final thoughts. Final thoughts. What would be your message to people that who don't understand this affliction, and they might meet somebody? Hell, they might have some people in their families and their general friends group. What would be your message in how to treat those people, or even how to help them?
All I can think of is just be patient and be understanding.
Well spoken.
Thank you.
Thank you. And folks, when it comes to the areas of mental health in the state of the world today, even in our own quiet little northern town, we got nothing. So, Zach, you've been an exceptional guest, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on here.
Happy to do it.
Absolutely happy to have you. And if you would like to see more of our podcast episodes and see what else Life on Saturn Productions has cooking in the artverse, please follow Life on Saturn Productions on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Facebook. And if you would like to see what else I do in terms of art outside of podcasting, please follow me at Catalyst Jost on Instagram. And with all that being said, folks, take care of your mental health during the winter season. Take care of your mental health during all seasons. Never be afraid to reach out for help. Never be ashamed when you think you need a bit of a lift.
Yeah.
And please, keep your vibes dope, keep your zen flowing, and as always, peace.